Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Fuel Your Practice's Growth, Proven Strategies to Drive Bottom Line Revenue. First, we have Ryan Obermeier, the Chief Commercial Officer at Avexia Diagnostics. Ryan works directly with functional and integrative medicine providers to help them expand their revenue potential through cash-based diagnostic programs that make advanced testing more accessible for both clinics and patients. His team's mission is to simplify the lab process while empowering independent providers to take control of their financial performance. And joining us as well is Vinnie Frangella, the Director of Sales at Power to Practice, the leading EMR platform designed specifically for integrative and functional medicine practices. Vinnie helps clinics leverage their technology to not only streamline operations, but also unlock new revenue opportunities through automation, supplement dispensing, memberships, cash-based labs, and pharmacy integrations, and much, much more. Today's conversation is all about strategy, not just clinical efficiency, but financial health. As costs rise, insurance reimbursements decline, and competition grows, independent providers are under more pressure than ever to find sustainable ways to thrive. We'll explore how cash-based lab programs and optimized workflows can transform the way you do business, giving you more time with patients, more financial stability, and more control over your future. So whether you're a clinic owner looking to improve profitability or a practitioner trying to spend less time behind a computer and more time changing lives, this episode is for you. All right, let's dive in. Welcome. Today, we're talking about what it really takes to run a thriving, independent, functional, or integrative medicine practice, especially when it comes to maximizing cash-based revenue without sacrificing patient care. Thank you, Ryan and Vinnie, for joining me today. I'm pumped for our discussion. It's near and dear to my heart. I've been consulting as a business consultant for independent practices for over 5 years now. And prior to that, had been immersed in functional and integrative medicine for over a decade, helping practitioners and providers create thriving, beautiful medical practices. I know that this is going to be great for our listeners to hear. Ryan, I want to start with you. What are you seeing right now in the market that makes this topic so critical for independent providers?
Well, I think that the opportunity has never been greater, quite frankly. I'm in my 27th year in the integrative functional medicine space. I would say when I started in the industry, it was no less than pushing a boulder up the hill every day. And I would say right now is probably the greatest time in this industry's history to be successful. I think it's a perfect storm between providers being interested, providers being burnt out, and then also having a uber educated end user patient, right? We have access to everything that we could possibly want as being a prospective patient. And we're probably looking at, as patients, we're probably looking for a provider to join the journey versus dictate the journey. And that's, I would say, probably the most common experience from conventional care, where you go to the provider and they're kind of telling you what to do, versus finding a provider that matches or aligns perfectly with what you're looking for and helping you on that journey, or in essence, joining you with the journey.
I agree. I think that patients being more educated, having access to this information, I see it in the industry that this integrative, functional, personalized, this niche of medicine has rocket fuel and fire on it right now. Patients are looking for this more than they ever have before. And they're looking for a partner in their journey. So they're coming in where years before you were having to start from like basics, and they're coming in taking steps proactively on their own. So not only are the patients more educated, but they seem like they're 2 steps ahead. So you're partnering with them at a different point in their journey, which has been really powerful.
Yeah, I think it's an awareness at every level, right? It's an awareness that there's something different. It's an awareness that there is something demanded. And I think both the provider and the patient alike can get to the finish line on where they see themselves. Honestly, I think many providers that enter into this space, they enter it because they themselves, a family member, a friend, got ill, didn't get answers, and got some results. And little by little, those things that they experienced personally start trickling into their practice. And then ultimately, the results can be denied. And
Right.
so I think ultimately, I think where we're at in history, I think the provider is certainly on the path to the finish line. And I also think that the end user patient or prospective patients are also on the same journey.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to get there, honestly.
I agree. And I think that they're becoming more educated with not only the their education in like lifestyle and about this type of medicine, what they're seeking out, but insurance and cost. I think cash-based services is it's not the same conversation that it was 5, even 2 or 3 years ago. People understand that this type of medicine can can be delivered in a cash-based model and that insurance can stifle your partnership with a provider. So I think that those conversations around cash-based services, cash-based practices are also evolving, and we're not seeing that same barrier in conversation with patients.
Well, I'm a patient and I understand patients, and obviously I've been on the provider side as well. I think for the most part, prospective patients and current patients, they recognize if I'm going to see a provider outside of conventional care, there's going to be a little out of pocket above and beyond what they're probably accustomed to with conventional care. And honestly, I know where our conversation is going to head today.
You
Insurance has
never know
completely
with me.
changed. Insurance has completely changed. It's, back in the day, I'm too young to know, but I've heard back in the day, patients were upset that they had a $2 copay, right?
I
And that just
wish.
isn't today. We know that probably the best insurance you can get or one of the best plans is like a PPO. Well, we know that that's on the decline while high deductible healthcare plans are on the rise. And it's roughly 7 out of 10 patients are either have high deductible healthcare plans and they don't have the PPO or government insurance, right? Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE, which tend to be pretty good insurances for the covered life, essentially. So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I
I
think
think insurance has completely changed.
another thing, and Dr. Peterson and I discussed this on one of our Form Health podcasts, talking about insurance. It's there for emergencies. It's great. If you get in an accident, our communities all are starting to see that if you want to take your health into your own hands, if you want to be proactive, if you want to heal, then insurance is probably going to be that band-aid fix again. It's not going to cover what it needs. So, Ryan, I'm curious, since we're talking about cash-based services today, what are the most overlooked revenue opportunities in functional and integrative medicine practices that you see?
Well, I think honestly, wherever there's hidden costs, and you know this, I think both of you guys know this, so I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I think a lot of physicians, let's just take where I'm at right now with laboratory testing, is the nomenclature that gets used is time and motion, right? So basically, it's the hidden cost of having or by offering labs in your practice. It's the idea of placing order, receiving boxes of supplies, putting the supplies on the shelf, placing in a lab order for a patient, getting results in, if it if you don't have a complete integration with an EMR, now you have a front of the house staff dragging and dropping PDFs, then you as the provider, you have to go in there and you're toggling back and forth between PDFs. These are all hidden costs. And I think both of you would agree every service line in the practice, there is hidden costs.
Absolutely.
And I think when you consider again time and motion, when I was with Forum Health, certainly we wanted to monetize everything. We knew that everywhere there was hidden costs. And when you start looking under the hood, I think most healthcare professionals who own their own practice, they don't consider that because they're paying themselves ultimately.
Mhm.
But again, I wouldn't know if there's any particular service line that's better than the other. What I would do is, increase profitability, reduce costs, and understand time and motion, and everything costs money. And if you're
Mhm.
not monetizing 100% of what's going on in the practice, and it has to be 100% of what's going on in the practice. Ultimately, you're losing money. And there's also the risk, of is your practice viable anymore because you've ignored the hidden risks.
I think I see a lot of clinics, they start with the basics. They charge for their time because that's what they're used to charging for.
Yep.
They charge for supplements, nutraceuticals, things that they can stock on the shelves. IVs, they gotta mix up. There's get that. When I see integrative in medicine practices, some of the things that I look for with mergers and strategic partnerships is the hidden opportunities. I think pharmacy, having billed direct to clinic and getting that out to the patients, whether it's stocking it in clinic or whether it's having it shipped directly to patients, it's really convenient. There's such easy ways to pick up margin in the clinic that way. You're already submitting the prescription and they
Or
already
my
have to
current
check
work.
out with
Yep.
you. Same
My
thing with
current world
labs.
of lab testing, right? So
Yep.
I think and so again, I've been in this space for 27 years, only been with my current employer of Exi Diagnostics for 2. And it does take a while to have enough observation and recognize enough pain points. But I think the pain point that we've really hit on the pain point for this service line in the practice with lab testing, the
Mhm.
pain point is not monetizing labs.
Yeah.
And I get it. Again, I'm a patient. I talk to my wife about this all the time. I'm kind of done buying warranties. They just tick me off because you can't build something good enough, so you make me buy insurance for the thing that you built crappy. And
And then it
I'm going
always
back to this
runs
idea.
out. The warranty's always up when it actually breaks too, right?
And so it's this idea of nickeling. Well, a couple things, nickeling and diming. I think that's what we're talking about, right? It's being at
Mhm.
Starbucks and then you turn the thing over and you're like, you do want me to tip you for the job that I'm supposed to do anyway?
Yeah.
So I think providers recognize that, and I think they understand that. So part of the argument to not monetize lab testing is, you know what? I'm making money on the IVs. I'm making money on the supplements. I charge for my time. I charge good money for my time. I charge $500 an hour. That's good money. So I understand that because again, I'm a patient, and then obviously I have on the provider side as well. And then I also think most providers in general have compassion for their patient and they empathize with their patient. And I think that might even be escalated, augmented, amplified in the integrative functional medicine space. And so they kind of almost say, you know what? I'm going to show my patients I care for them, and I'm going to run a cash practice, but we're still going to try to somehow finagle running labs through their insurance. And probably what we'll talk about today is that's going to create a lot of problems. So out of the goodness of their heart, they're putting patients in a position that 7 out of 10 times is actually going to be the inferior position for the patient.
Right. I agree with that too. When it comes to services like pharmacy and labs, for a lot of practitioners, there is this mindset. They were trained and raised in a traditional and conventional setting, already a mindset there. And you're right. They don't realize that if we are submitting to insurance 7 out of 10 times, they're going to pay higher than what they would have.
Adding to that, though, they're also familiar with the environment of PPOs.
Yeah.
And PPOs are going away. I mean, you can type in a chat GPT, they're actually falling off a cliff while high deductible healthcare plans are really skyrocketing.
Right.
And so the other thing that I would make a comment on too. So again, I truly do believe this, and hopefully it comes off this way. I think most people care about their patient. They're trying to do the best for their patient. They don't want to feel like they're nickel and diming. They're going to help them because they are familiar with the PPO and environment and I'll get your labs covered by insurance. But I think the thing that we're going to get into today is they just lack the understanding. They're not fluent, is the word. And when you're not fluent in a concept or nomenclature, you don't have confidence. And when you lack confidence, you lack conviction. And when you lack conviction, it becomes really difficult to steer patients towards, again, 7 out of 10 times the better choice for them. And I've already admitted PPOs and government insurance are probably going to be better served for this service line of lab testing, still running stuff through insurance. But again, 7 out of 10 times or 7 out of
Mhm.
10 patients walking through the door, I think you're going to be surprised that the cash route is going to be the superior choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. Vinny, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. I come from a little bit different side of healthcare than Ryan and Amanda, coming from a decade plus in traditional medicine. And it is one of the things that got me very excited about the opportunity in the functional medicine space is how frustrated not only was I as a patient, but how many of the providers that I was working with on the traditional side were kind of railroaded by these healthcare systems, these EMRs, these algorithms that spit out another medication and recommendation. Their services are tied to patient reimbursement when it comes to insurance. So it comes down to that educational piece and how confident getting that message across to your patients is, because it is something coming from all honesty and transparency. This is why you don't want us contracted with insurance, is
Hmm.
because we are able to give you the most bang for your buck, the most detailed, granular, individual biomarkers on these specific lab tests that insurance really is going to do nothing but say that's patient responsibility at the end of the day. And what does that do? That delays these biomarkers and results getting back to your provider for that treatment and care to get underway and start. So it really comes down to giving your patients the best care, but understanding why the best care is increasing your lab cash ordering adoption program.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of things, and we'll get into more about the benefit, not just for the financials of the practice, but the unseen, maybe not talked about benefits as well for providers who are listening in, getting ready to adopt cash based labs. We'll get into that for a second. I do want to go back to when I look at the financials of clinics that do not incorporate cash labs and or pharmacy services, which I think are the two service lines that I see absent when I evaluate clinics, or those are the most common two. I see IVs, I see the nutraceuticals, the time, the programs, all of those things. But those two are probably the most commonly not leveraged in clinics. And there is a huge gap between profit margins in clinics who have those adoptions versus other clinics who do not. I would say on average, I would look at 8 to 12% margin without cash or pharmacy. And with those two, which there's not a ton of added administrative or hidden costs when you charge for those either, those margins start to climb 20 to 30%. And that is significant in a medical practice, especially in integrative and functional medicine practice. That is 2 more MAs. That is another RN or 2. I mean, that can
Yep.
change the workflow and efficiency as well as the work-life balance on the providers, the staff. And so increasing your margin and profit margin for clinics really it does have a patient level impact as well. You're able to staff better. You're able to get back to patients faster. You're able to hire that next practitioner so that there's no more wait lists. There should not be any guilt with improving margins because it only allows you to serve your communities that much better. And when we started implementing cash-based um, labs more in Forum Health, and now that is a standard practice that we follow. There were a lot of things that we had to work with our providers on to overcome some mindset stuff. And we worked through it. So for clinics who've never offered cash labs before, where do we start? If we want to do cash labs, what are the first few steps that we need to take? Vinny, I'll let you start.
I would start with whole staff education. And I want to emphasize whole staff education because not only is it important that the providers understand the benefits that their patients and their clinical are going to experience, but let's understand and let's be honest that a lot of times the provider recommends that in the consult room has a cash lab conversation with that patient, but that checkout process actually happens at the front desk. So it is important that anyone that could have a hand in this patient's care and their visits through the 4 clinical walls or virtual walls, they need to be well versed in why we are doing this program, the benefits that the patient sees from upfront pricing, no needs for insurance, paying someone you trust here at our clinic with discounted rates for a faster turnaround time and for privacy. And so making sure that that whole team is well versed is number one. Number two, we at Power to Practice help out with in-clinic collateral because we're always waiting for those providers. We're always in consult rooms, waiting rooms. We're waiting to check out at the point of
And at the end
sale.
of the day, they're gonna have a conversation at checkout about it. Having that collateral there really does plant the seeds.
Leading.
It helps lead that conversation a little bit more. If I could take one step back from all staff education, which I fully agree. It does not stop at the clinician. It doesn't stop at your office manager. It is everybody because they're asking your RNs, they're asking the MAs, all of the stuff. Everybody should be trained and understand. But you have to, one, understand the why. Why am I implementing cash labs? You have to be in a mindset that you as a clinician have to be the first adopter of this. You have to believe that this is the right decision for your clinic. One, to improve margins, know what you need to do. And what are you going to do with those margins so you understand the value that that's bringing into your practice for you and your staff. Also, what is the value that you're communicating to your patients? So, one big thing that I thought was such an aha moment for me when was implementing cash labs was, like you said, the privacy component. When we were doing integrative and functional medicine labs, we tend to order a little bit more than a traditional conventional provider does. So, we're going to uncover some things most likely that a conventional practitioner might not have ran or identified unless you were really asking for it. And so when a patient chooses insurance and they have an antibody that comes back and says, "Oh, guess what? You have an autoimmune disease." Now the insurance company knows that. But as integrative and functional clinicians, we know that we can do a lot to correct that, get those blood markers down. And when you use insurance, your insurance company knows that patient has that label now for life. Insurance or rates going up because you have a new diagnosis, and there was something we could do about it. That's one big thing that a lot of providers can connect with
Sure.
as a why behind this, because you are offering this in favor of your patient right now.
Well, and you just have to be honest with the patient of, hey, yes, I can print you that super bill, but you have to be ready for denials, patient responsibility, more supportive evidence, a delay in getting these labs and these test results done, and that's doing nothing but being fully transparent with your patients and then encouraging them to say, this is why we recommend our cash lab program, because you could leave here today, or if you
Mhm.
have an on-site draw, start getting that, done right then and there.
Right. I have 7 out of 10 people are going to get that it's patient responsibility. It's going to get denied. I've looked at a lot of cash-based pricing. I had my own labs ran through conventional, and I ended up paying $900 for labs. I looked at that would have been at our clinics. I looked at what that would have been at other clinics, a fraction of the cost. Most clinics would have charged $250, maybe $300 for the labs that I'd gotten, and insurance slapped me with a $900 bill. And so I think that those denials they're a really big deal. And
Was that a balance bill then for you?
Mhm,
So basically
mhm.
that's fairly common. And if you go back to like pricing, and this is a really broad brush stroke, so bear with me. This is just the nature of the beast with labs. It does matter what area of the country you're in, what insurance company you're working with,
Absolutely.
and what insurance plan the employer wants to make available to its employee population. But in general, what I hear is reimbursement for a CBC, which we all know is probably the most basic blood chem test you can do. And reimbursement historically or typically right now is between $80 and $90. Cash-based price performed by the same lab, same test is 27. And then the Avexia price is a fraction of that. So everyone's heard the idea someone went to the hospital, you start looking at the invoice, and you're like, they charged me $13 for an acetaminophen pill, right? Well, we know $13 is above and beyond reasonable and customary for an acetaminophen pill. But when they back bill lab testing, that's what they're back billing. They're back billing you the $13 acetaminophen pill and not a 13-cent acetaminophen pill. That's what they're back billing you.
Yeah.
And so pricing becomes really important, not only for the cash outlay to the patient, But in the case that, hey, if they decide to go the insurance route, it is important to know what is the reimbursement rate of those tests. And you could get hit with a $900 bill, which once again, I'm guessing some of those tests are probably not covered by that insurance plan, or it went above and beyond the negotiated rate. So you're just going to get hit with that.
Yeah.
And there's evidence in one of my slide decks that a hospital in California got reimbursed, I think it was like $7,200 for a CBC. So it's kind of the wild, wild west.
If you are a clinic and you're interested in offering cash labs or you've been considering it in the past, I think one, understand your why and the benefits for you, your practice, your patients. This is beyond the financial health of clinics, but there's also so much worth in having a profitable financial functional medicine clinic. You can serve so much more, but on the back end of that too, you are doing this in favor of the patients. They're typically going to pay less. They're going to have privacy from insurance companies and you're going to be their superhero. So, number one, a mind shift is necessary. Vinny, I think to step number two is all staff training, get that collateral in there and understand what that conversation looks like with patients. I do mock conversations, practice it with your staff, have a little lunch and learn, and, practice, role play, do the thing, ask the hard questions so that you know what those answers are or what answers you need to find in order to have that educated conversation. Those are the first like two big, big steps.
It's not going to be 100% ordering adoption like the drop of a dime.
Right.
Rome wasn't built in a day. So we need to understand that it starts with, one, then you build from there because
Absolutely.
we need to, fine tune that conversation, find the right, pieces of collateral being messaged, whether in clinic or digitally or a combination of the two. And then
Mhm.
also understanding as the adoption numbers increase and grow for your cash lab business, that is going to free up a lot more time for whoever was responsible for that, whether it's a provider or an office support staff member,
Mhm.
because he or she is not going to have to log into each individual lab portal and make orders like that happen. That's all done within our integration with Power to Practice as a huge time saver. So the benefit as you have these
Efficiency.
successful conversations, that census now has the ability to maybe accept a couple more patients
Yeah,
on the
and I
bottom
think
line.
my number 3 to this is work out your plan, right? You have to get educated, you have to know the conversation, you have the right mindset, but to also set yourself up for success. If you don't draw labs in clinic, where are they going to for their draw site? Have that place located. Who are you using as a partner? Is it going to be Power to Practice with their integration to Avexia Labs? Meet with them and get trained. It's working out the steps and identifying who's owning what. And I think that the kind of impact, if you are intentional about this, if you plan this, I'm talking a rollout plan because the financial opportunity that I've seen in our clinics have transformed practices. Hiring 2, 3 more providers when they thought they could have another provider. This can transform a practice and a community in general. Having a plan that when you look at if you've been not offering cash lab services for a while, I think there's this rollout. You need to consider sending out communication in advance to let them know this change is coming. And you have to set up the trainings and start having that proactive conversation with patients about the pros with it and what you're willing to still do. I do think that part of the steps necessary is also communicating and educating your patients. But once that clicks, it is
Yes.
magic in the clinics.
My comment on it is if you're going to do like a prior rollout before it becomes available, make it a value add. Don't
Absolutely.
be like, oh my God, this is like a downer. This is like, oh my God, you can now do that. We're now
No,
accepting
this is an
this.
exciting thing. For me, this is exciting, and that's how you have to shift your mindset too. We are helping patients. We are building a profitable practice. Take some of that and put it back into the community. I don't know, but this is good stuff that we're doing for our communities, and the objections, they're common, but they're really easy if you have the right tools, resources, and training, which I think Power to Practice and Avexia, your partnership, I think that provides all the tools and the training and the support. So you've got partners. And that's what I would say too is when you're looking at doing this, who are your partners? Who do you have supporting your implementation outside of your practice? Because you need partners in labs, in EMRs in order to make this the most successful, most efficient for your practice.
Yeah.
So,
And one last thing I want to tag along to kind of your rollout plan there, Amanda, because I completely agree. One of the other things that I could just dwell on from successful clinics doing this is they have looked at this as an opportunity to pair this with a rollout of memberships, being
yep,
able to bundle these labs together to say, hey, I have a weight loss program, I have a thyroid program, I have a hormone program for 6 months, 12 months comprehensive care that includes an initial set of labs and some follow up
I
labs
love
there,
bundles.
all bundled together. The patient gets value. You get that lifetime value of that patient continually coming back while also knowing that you're getting the best deal and discount from
Mhm.
the labs that you are commonly ordering. So the very business minded and bottom line focused clinics are able to also offer this in a membership and more of a ad hoc visits while still being able to have those cash lab conversations, whatever preferred method the patient wants.
I think one little thing that came to mind that might be a nice nugget for people. If you're on the fence with this, or if you're like, yeah, I want to do this, start with new patients and make it a new standard for new patients and have a go live for the rest. It's, November. Have a go live date for the rest of your patient base, January 1. So starting no all new patients moving forward. This is the
Yep.
conversation. It's cash labs, right? And then all the patients that you have, which if you're not sending out to like communication to your patients right now to fill your December schedules, like, hey, get in for the holidays and make sure that you're joining the new year, right? Get a little bit ahead of your New Year's goals because we're going to be really busy in January. But start letting your patients know that there's going to be a change coming in January. We're coming up to a great time of the year where this kind of change, if the communication is expected, there's changes with the new year, pricing adjustments or whatever. New things are coming this year. Patients expect communication of what's changing with your practice in the new year. Take advantage of it. Do something different on January 1st, offer cash labs. Start with your new patients right now. That's going to give you a month of conversations with new patients. It's going to build you and your staff's confidence in these conversations. If you get started slower with just the new patients and you hit go in January, you've had a little bit of practice. Maybe you see about 20 new patients a month. And so you've had 20 conversations in December. And then when January hits, everybody in the office is confident. Wow. That's
Yeah, my
great.
comments on that is just simply with the new patients and starting there is you're training patients.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the way we do things, right? I know when I was in supplement sales, I would say I trained my customers. They knew when I was in the office, I would be walking out with an order. Like they just knew that they'd be placing an order with me. And it's
Hmm.
kind of the same idea, right? You're training the patients who are new, and then however you want to roll that out to your current patient base makes sense as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's always ways to perfect that's why I love being a business consultant because there's always just like one little area of opportunity. There always is. But
Yeah.
even small things like not using the word but, right? I understand that insurance is nice to have. And instead of that but word, right? You're undoing cash labs are great, but don't say but. Labs are great and they allow us to explore deeper and further without red flagging you to your insurance company without sounding the alarms. And it's great that we get to do that together. It's small things, just tiny things. And having best business practices, check-ins, and staff meetings regularly, whether you're doing it weekly or bi-weekly, have cash labs as part of your best business practice. Have those staff meetings. How did it go? What challenges? Did somebody get a question that they want to share so we can bounce off of each other? Those meetings evolve into what can we do 1% better now? Switching out a
Yes.
word? Cool. It doesn't seem that
Yep.
hard in 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree. I always like the idea of doing a weekly huddle. I
Mhm.
know with business owners, they're really concerned because they're like, I'm paying my staff for an hour and we're not generating revenue for that hour. But 1 hour a week, what we experienced when I was at Forum Health in one particular practice to go unnamed dramatically impacted the culture of the local practice. And it really is a sure way to get really close to 100% alignment across the board. So even like the communication that you mentioned earlier, hey, we're going to be excited about this. Like we mentioned, this isn't going to be, oh my gosh, this is what we're switching to. It's going to be an we're going to offer specialty labs at cash, and we're now going to start offering blood chemistry at
Yeah.
cash-based labs as well. So I like everything that you're saying.
Yeah. I think that is integrative and functional medicine practitioners and practices, there's a component that most of your patients, if you're doing specialty labs like Genova, and there's already a cash component to labs, you just haven't taken the full deep dive. And I challenge any practitioners who haven't taken the deep dive, do it. It is incredible what you can do with your patients, with your community, with your work-life balance. It's incredible. So, Vinny, I want to ask you, how can P2P's built-in tools, I know we've got pharmacy integration that launched, we're improving workflow efficiencies for
Yeah.
scheduling. Obviously, we have cash-based labs. We've got our partnership with Avexia, online scheduling. How can these tools unlock revenue streams for practices?
I would say that really, whether you are brand new to functional medicine, coming over from the traditional side and just getting going with your practice, even in a part time capacity. Power to Practice has tools for that solo provider, all the way up to a group of providers working through multiple clinics. And what really we try to hit on is as you grow and your clinic grows, Power to Practice has more tools for that growth. So you're not going to be outgrowing Power to Practice. We're going to be growing side by side and being with your success in mind to hit those benchmarks for whatever we want to focus on. Where a lot of providers see immediately value is being able to tap into our discounted rates when it comes to partnerships like Avexia here and what we have on the compounding pharmacy side. We
Hmm.
also, with the memberships that we just rolled out here in 2025, being able to build your own memberships, have a mixture of provider visits there, along with labs, and then be able to set it and forget it with reoccurring billing. The little things of taking some of the administrative burden off the plate there and
Yeah.
allow you to focus more on your patients, which in functional medicine is really what we're trying to drive and
Yeah.
deliver to our patients. So the goal of Power to Practice is to have an EMR system working side by side for you, not putting that burden onto our providers and their staffs that I know I have to
Hmm.
document here, but this is a inefficient way to document. We want to give you the integrations and the tools to make everything a couple clicks of the mouse from one system to have access to anything you and your patients would ever need.
Yeah. I think that what efficiency, no matter if you're big or if you're small, right? Efficiency means more bandwidth. More bandwidth means more time your clinic and staff get to spend with patients directly, improving patient experience, retention, and just overall. When you free up bandwidth, time is the one thing we don't get more of. We all know that. We're not getting it back. So if you can give yourself more time, I've been able to watch Power to Practice evolve over the last few years, and also being part of the M&A and strategic partnerships for Forum Health. I've had the opportunity to kind of get a behind the scenes peek at quite a few practices across the country, and it's fascinating. But the one thing that I think we started to see, and Ryan, I think you can attest to this too, is that the tech stacks, there's one piece of technology for scheduling. There's one for your EMR. There is one to collect payment. Now, if you're going to do membership, you better have something that tracks that as well. Technology is a blessing, but at the same time, all of these stacks create such small but big micro inefficiencies in the practice, which if you think of a micro inefficiency, one, not a big deal. If I had a water balloon and I was just poking little micro holes in it with a needle, one little leak, two little leaks. But when you have 5 or 6 or 7, that thing pops, right? And so add up enough of these inefficiencies in the clinic, and the room for opportunity and growth is just consolidating that. And it sounds like we are creating and have created more of a business management tool. I know we have this online scheduling, we have now AI, we've got integrations for labs. It's a one-stop shop for you to do your business. And we're continuing to improve this into not only an EMR system, but also a tool for the practice to generate revenue, create efficiencies in the practice, and do some business management, honestly. What do you think is the most underutilized feature that can instantly improve profitability?
In Power to Practice, some of our clinics overlook
How you answer this.
I was going to say,
the,
we already know
it,
Ryan's answer. He's just a tad biased, but
well, I'm
labs,
going to let
labs
her,
and pharmacy, I think, are a given. Let's just
yeah.
throw that out there. I think labs and pharmacy and integrative and functional medicine is underutilized by independent practitioners. So
But
outside
outside
Ryan
those, I
Pappy.
would say patient recall functionality is something, especially if you do plan to, roll out memberships,
Mhm.
it's important that you're getting, those patients back on the books.
Yeah.
I think a cross, kind of healthcare example is dentist office. Who
Hmm.
doesn't go to the dentist office and leave that cleaning with another visit on the books?
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times I move that appointment around, but I'm on the books,
Right.
for that return visit. It's a lot more likely that once I'm on the books, I'm just going to move that visit around and make it work, and that's sometimes one of those things that's overlooked is, hey, the checkout process, the waiting room could be very busy, and, you need to check in that next patient and you forgot to schedule that return visit,
Yeah.
making sure that you're tapping into the recall functionality and having the provider say, I want to see that patient, Ryan, in 2 months from now.
Yeah.
By then, he will have, new lab results that I just ordered for him, and we'll interpret those results at the end of the year.
I agree. It's important for every independent practice. If you're looking at a practice that might have inefficiencies, or if you're going through staffing challenges, there is a number of things that happens daily to integrative and functional medicine practices. But the patients that you are seeing today should be on your schedule for your follow-up. The patient acquisition strategy, this is a demanding space. There's a lot of competition in this market. Virtual is taking off also. So we've got that to combat with the recall and scheduling patients and making sure what you've already done hard work on, which is building your reputation in the community and allowing people to find you and getting them on the books. That's the hardest step, is getting them booked for that new patient appointment. Why do you want to give up their follow-ups? The recall is really important because the cost of patients acquisition is going up
Yeah.
and competition is increasing. You got a lot more competition for paid advertising. Don't lose your current patients because you forgot to follow up. This one patient crossed my mind. I haven't seen her in 10 months. I wonder how she's doing. Do you know how many more patients you could probably think of if just one of them crossed your mind? There's a whole lot of opportunity out there for all the other ones too. So, how do clinics successfully roll out these tools and get their team on board? Is it just scheduling time with you and your team, Vinny? Or is there some sort of a magic sauce to this? Is it easy? Is it hard? How do these guys roll this out?
Couple different ways. If you already have a Avexia account and login, that's great. We will basically then be asking our clinics for a unique identifier that then myself on the Power to Practice side works with my dev team and the great dev team over at Avexia Diagnostics to basically make that unique identifier integrate into your Power to Practice EMR system. Then it would go about with kind of training and onboarding, talking through kind of goals, aspirations, how you plan to roll this out, what the fee schedules and how you guys plan to show this and bill and recoup some revenue to your patients, whether it's flat fee percentages, rolling out of memberships, or a mixture of a couple of those options. And then basically from there, you have access to make these orders happen in P2P. And then the extended version, if you have never signed up for Avexia Diagnostics, that would be the first step. Getting access to their platform, signing up as a provider. From there, we will have a conversation about the integration. If you're totally new to Power to Practice and this conversation is of interest to you, I would highly recommend you join our watch demo link and get some time with either myself or our account executive, Edgar. We would be happy to walk you through our functional medicine EMR platform, and then obviously spend some time highlighting what this Avexia diagnostic integration can bring to your clinic, your patients, and to your bottom line.
I've worked with Edgar before. Shout out to Edgar. He is awesome. If you guys get an opportunity to demo with him, tell him Amanda says hi, and I can't wait to see him at A4M. I've loved this conversation today. We could go on and on. Gonna start wrapping it up for us, but we'll be back for more. Ryan, if you had to give a practice owner advice, if they wanted to free up 5 hours a week, what advice would you give them?
I have two ideas. It goes back to where you're really imploring the audience to sit down with your team, top to bottom training, complete alignment. The E-Myth book, I've bought that book for probably 50 practices in my career. It was the best book that they have ever read for their business. And so it's E-Myth, and I think the original publication is out of publication. So you need to get, I think it's called Revisited. So that would be number one. Number two, give yourself 5 hours a week. I'm a firm believer in this. If you are a business owner, I think that you have to schedule Monday through Friday, if that's your clinic hours, 1 or 2 days monthly to get out of the clinic. And the idea is to work on the business as opposed to working in the business. When I started working alongside physicians and really recognized, I think Amanda and Vinnie can both attest to this, that they are looking day to day, maybe week to week. And I started talking to them about viewing their business in 6-month horizons.
Yeah.
So what does the business look at? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, so on and so forth. And the only way you can do that is start looking or start scheduling some time off site. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important. Know thyself. I think you have to understand, in what environment do I need to enter into flow state? And flow state, I mean by that is where the ideas are coming to me so fast, I can't even keep up. I'm writing so fast, I can't keep up with all my ideas.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's two distinct areas. Number one, it's a very busy, noisy Starbucks. All that white noise allows me to get in a flow state. And then the opposite end of the continuum, when I go hiking, but I've recognized I have to hike alone, but you certainly get into flow state for that. It would be really wise to think of 3 questions while you're working on the business. What do I need to start doing? What do I need to stop doing? And what do I do so dang well, or my practice do so well, I absolutely have to protect it. So as you work your way through these 3 questions, what I need to start, stop, and continue, think of it at 3 levels: corporate, team, and individual. And you're going to have a whole bunch of answers under each of these questions. And then after that, you can kind of start grouping your answers together and create the plan that you need for next year. So buy the book, schedule 1 or 2 days monthly to get offsite, get in a flow state, work on the business, and as opposed to in the business.
Challenge. One of the key takeaways for sustainable growth comes mastering the systems that power your practice. If you don't know the systems that are powering your practice, then you definitely have inefficiencies. Mastering the systems that power your practice. And another is the whole team. Make them part of the conversation, the trainings and the process. You're not doing it alone. You've got people there. Lean on your partners too and the resources that you have. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It has been wonderful breaking down some of the mindset barriers and the opportunities around cash-based labs in integrative and functional practices. I hope that this was a powerful podcast webinar for those listeners out there that helps you get more ready and confident to start taking action, to book that demo or schedule that meeting with your staff to finally implement cash lab adoption as a solution for your practice. And it was wonderful. We'll have to do it again. So
Let's do
thanks
it.
for listening and see you next time.